The subject of this lesson is how we can use sound design to better our arrangement and our arrangement decisions. Now, one thing that we can do, and we will talk about it in the next level when we talk about automation, is by using various different effects to accentuate any rising, falling, any of these transitionals that we have right there. So I'm going to show that to you now by, using my mouse and moving parameters, myself manually. And then we can go on in the next level and then, see how we can do that with automation. I'm going to add, let's say, a filter, an auto filter to my drums, just like that. So now it's not cutting anything. This filter is cutting at 19.9 kilohertz. That's really high, and has some resonance just to keep it, as flat as possible, so that we make sure that there is no difference once we bypass it. So let's see. Theoretically, there is no difference that we can hear, although as we do have a steep filter right there, 24 dBs per octave, it is shifting the phase of that last part of the signal, which is really high, should not matter. That's all good and okay, but still, if we want to make sure that once we turn the filter all the way up, that nothing's affecting the signal, that it's actually bypassed, we could automate this button and then automate this button too. Now, to avoid doing that, to avoid doing things with automation, and you will see when we start drawing automation, we want to keep everything, as simple as possible. Of course, Ableton gives us that opportunity. So I can group this filter into a rack just like this. And in that rack, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map this filter movement to the macro one, right there, to the macro. Okay, so another thing that I can do is I can add another chain right here. Create another chain. Keep this small. Create another chain right there. And I can call this one filter because it has a filter. I can rename that. So filter. And I can call this one clean. So you can rename by right-clicking and choosing rename, or you can just click the thing you want to rename and Control R or Command R on a Mac. Of course, every time you click it, you can see the actual shortcut on your computer. So now I have these two chains. What I can do is use this selector right here, this orange bar right there, to choose which one of these is going to be playing. So if I move this one to the right one position, now I'm playing through the filter. And now I'm playing to the clean one. See that? So I can choose which one is going to be passing the sound at the moment. So what I can do is choose to have this clean one all the way up, meaning that once I turn this button all the way up, and I can map this to the macro, the same one that turns the frequency is going to be turning, you see this selector, this orange thing, the selector of the chain, left and right, meaning that once I open all the way up, I want the filter to be bypassed. I want the entire sound to go through this clean chain right here that has no effects on it. So I want everything else except that last position to be handled with the filter, and then once I turn all the way up, it goes through the clean. That's it. So right now, effectively, I have a filter on this drums, which when it's turned all the way up, of course, it's already, almost non-visible, but it's also bypassed at the same time. So I'm sure that I'm not changing the sound, not changing any phase of anything using a really steep filter, because filters do mess with the phase of sounds, unless they are linear phase filters, like in linear phase DQs, which do introduce latency. So right now, I'm sure that once I turn all the way up, I'm not filtering anymore because all of the sound goes through the clean. So let's try that out. That's nice. Now, the only thing we can hear when I go all the way down with the filter is this. is the actual reverb that I used for all of these. You see, it's used a little bit on the bass too. It's used, a tiny bit on almost everything, on the melodies too, but it also goes to the drums too. But as you can see, when I have my drums playing in the song, I also have a lot of other, elements too. So I should not be worried that, some of that reverb is going to leak through. It really is not going to be something noticeable. So I choose to compromise. Instead of making another copy of this, and dedicating only that one reverb for the drums and then routing that reverb to go through the group so it's, filtered together with everything else, I really don't care, because right now, even when I filter out with all the elements playing together with the drums, you can't hear that. You just hear the filter on the actual drums happening. So right now I have this filter, so what I can do is like maybe sometimes just close off these drums. You see, so now near any of these breaks, before we stop with everything, I can actually close out the drums, like maybe also right here. Very nice. Now I have a nice effect that I can use. Also, what I can also do is apply another kind of filter. So that was the low pass filter. Now I can apply a high pass filter, which I'm going to use in the same actual way. Meaning that I'm going to create that same group, you see right there. So I'm going to group this. So right click, select group, or just Control G, of course. And then I can do the same thing. So open it up, and this chain is going to be called Control R to rename, filter. So now I have this one with the filter. I will also rename this one with the Control R, call it clean, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to map the frequency to the macro 1, and then I'm going to open this button right here, chain, which is going to show me this chain selector, so where the sound goes through from these two. Right now it's going through both. Yeah, that's by default. So what do I want now? When this filter is all the way down to not doing anything, it's right there, it's all the way down. So now I have to do the opposite thing. The clean is going to stay at the beginning, and everything else is going to be handled by the filter chain. Just like that. So now when I go all the way down, not only that the filter is in a position where it's, it should have been doing too much, it is at 26 Hertz and it will be messing with the phase of everything. So right now it's bypassed. So look at that. Just like that. Of course, I need to map this to the macro. Forgot to do that. Nice. So now my macro is moving the filter frequency and the actual selector of the chain, like that. So now all of these positions, let me solo out the drums. See, all of those positions are handled by the filter. And when I bring it all the way down, the actual signal switches to play through the clean chain. So now I bypass the filter all at once just by using one button, just like that. Another thing I just noticed is that my ride was not getting filtered. Why is that? I need to check my routing for the ride, and it seems that it's going through the group. So it seems that it's okay. I just didn't hear that filter on it because it has all of those high frequencies. Yeah. So leaving all the high frequencies in there just seems like the ride is normal, like it's not even being touched. So let's try that again. Yeah, and the ride also has a lot of reverb. You see, a lot of them, sent. So that's also going to stay. Those reverbs are not going to get filtered together with everything. But it does not really worry me. As I told you, my drums play with a lot of other instruments, so right now I can use that effect creatively, let's say by the end of this drop right there. So let's try this one too. So I can do that using automation, so using these filters to create another layer of excitement, of change that's going to ease off these transitions and make them even more viable to happen. So that filter is going to prepare the listener that something is going to happen, so that when this thing runs in, it's going to sound even more powerful, meaning that I'm going to be cutting off all the low frequencies from the drums right there. So the drums actually almost disappear into the highs, and then I pull that filter down during this small pause, and when they start again, they start full power. So I'm actually creating more excitement, I'm creating more energy fluctuation, and that makes all of those transitions to sound even better. Now another thing I can do too is use some other effect for like the same purpose, for the same kind of like creative management, just like this. So let's say a reverb where I have the dry wet. I'm going to raise up this reverb time to be longer, and I'm going to leave all the highs in there with this damping algorithm. So I'm going to damp all the lows. I don't want those as much. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave all the highs in there. So what's going to happen with this? Let's hear the drums only, see what the change is, what this is going to introduce. So this is what it does. Introduces a lot of reverb so that all of these sounds actually fade out. Okay, so let's try that before the break also. Also very nice. So creating some kind of a transition. But I could also use that reverb, let's say not on the drums, but maybe on all of these melodies, like right there. So let's try. Let's see how that sounds. I'm just using all of these effects on groups. Yeah. So we can do that. Let's try that. Let's see what that sounds like. So that's normal, and now I can actually introduce all that reverb, so it sounds even better on all of these melodies. So this is what it would sound like in a real natural example. I'm going to move this with my mouse so you can hear it with the song. You see that kind of effect. So imagine if I, combined a couple of those effects. Let's say this reverb and this kind of a, let's see which one of these I want. So this one is the high pass there. Let's say this effect too. So I'm going to copy this by holding control and dragging that onto the synths channel too. So now I have two of those. I have the filter and I have the reverb. And I can actually use these at the same time. So I can drag that reverb in here into the actual chain with this filter. And I can map this dry wet button right there into the macro one. Meaning that now my macro button, it actually controls the chain selector right there. So I don't have to show you that anymore. I'm going to hide that so that you can see that this macro now moves the frequency and moves the dry wet. So it all happens at the same time. And once I go all the way down, it's bypassed. So let's hear what that sounds like soloed like this. Very nice. So in the whole song. Just like that. And maybe we could even add something more into the mix. So let's say that filtered out rhythm, let's say we do this. I add a redux, so downsampling effect right there. I'm going to map that to macro 1 also. So let's see what that sounds like together with those. Also sounds very cool, even without the reverb. Let's try it like this. And let's do it solo so you can hear the actual difference. And I actually like it. It's really nice. One thing I would like is for this knob right there not to move all the way up as much as the frequency is, because all the way up it really distorts the sound so much that it doesn't give me the effect I want. So I can click on the map button right here and I can check out everything that's mapped to this macro one. So we can see that it's the chain selector, that one right here, the chain selector. We have the filter. We have well, it's on the filter, it's the Redux sample soft, so it's this button right here. We also have the auto filters frequency, and we also have the reverbs dry wet button. Now on the Redux, I don't want the maximum to go as far as it did, so I'm going to lower it down a tiny bit. And that's going to be it. I'm going to close the mapping off, and now when I move the macro right there all the way up, you see this one moved all the way up. The chain selector moved all the way up, but the downsampling button did not. It moved all the way to 12.7, which you can actually see right there. That's what I set for my maximum. So we can use this technique to map a lot of buttons into one, and then when we need to draw automation to create, kind of a transitional effect, we just draw one automation. Everything else is being handled by the actual mapping in the macro. So this is the kind of, creative sound design effects, which is just regular effects that you would use for anything else as a static effect, maybe even automate them, create some kind of automation for them to move on a single melody, even on the groups, and that's all okay. This is just some of the things that could help you with your arrangement. After the fact that you've done your arrangement, these kinds of things can help your transitionals. So help your transitions to run smoother or to create a better energy impact once a new part of the song starts. So you would usually do these, before the next new part of the song starts, before the drop, or when the drop is finishing, or when this outro is finishing. Those are the kinds of things that you can use as weapons to accentuate, your transitions and make them sound even cooler, make that energy change, transition sound even better.